the skies began to shift inexplicably. On a calm night, the first stellar runes emerged, tearing through the veil of darkness. They were luminous symbols that moved as if alive, glowing and fading, reappearing in different patterns. People on Earth did not understand their meaning, but for scholars and occultists, these runes were a sign that something profound was about to happen. Seraphina Nightfall, an archimancer and expert in the celestial code, quickly became involved with these runes. To her, it was clear that they were not mere cosmic manifestations but an ancient message, a hidden code written in our stars. The discovery of the runes was more than just an astronomical phenomenon. They were the key to a long-lost mystery, a secret that, if unveiled, would change the fate of the world. Seraphina obsessively studied the patterns of the runes, uncovering their connection to an ancient legend about the Forge of Lost Souls, a mystical forge with the power to create weapons capable of manipulating reality itself. The runes were the first step in awakening this forge. But there was a problem. These weapons were not merely tools. They were chosen by the souls that had been sacrificed for their creation, and often they carried a curse. Meanwhile, the warrior Ethan Caldwell, who wielded a mystical sword forged from fragments of reality itself, began to sense that his fate was somehow intertwined with these runes and the Forge of Lost Souls. Ethan's sword, which he had always believed to be just a weapon, was in fact the key to the power that was about to be unleashed. Now he had to understand how the forge worked, before it was too late. To many, the Forge of Lost Souls was more than just a legend. It was an ancient tale whispered among scholars and occultists, passed down through the secret circles of society. It was said that the forge was not merely a physical location but a cosmic entity in itself, a furnace that consumed and reshaped the essence of celestial beings, transforming them into fragments of pure energy. The weapons forged with these sacrificed souls were not mere tools. They were vessels of incomprehensible power, capable of bending the very laws of reality. Though many dismissed the story as myth, some believed that the forge existed in a realm beyond the physical, where the laws of space and time bowed to the will of a higher being, perhaps an ancient god or a cosmic entity. In this plane, souls were consumed, their echoes absorbed by the weapons created there. The legends spoke of these forged weapons as being so powerful that they could distort reality itself in the hands of their wielders. But they also came at a terrible cost. Each sacrificed soul left an indelible mark on the weapon and its bearer, making them vulnerable to psychic and spiritual torment. Seraphina Nightfall, the archimancer, soon realized that to understand the forge, she would need to decipher the celestial code, an ancient language of symbols and cosmic patterns that, according to ancient texts, provided the path to the forge and its secrets. The stellar runes appearing in Earth's skies were the key to this code, and with them the revelation of the path to the Forge of Lost Souls. However, the code was not something easily unraveled. Seraphina knew that ancient scribes had hidden its messages so that only the wisest could understand them, protecting humanity from a power they themselves barely comprehended. As the runes in the sky intensified, the puzzle pieces fell into place, but a new dilemma emerged. If the forge were reactivated, it would not only create more weapons but also open portals to cosmic horrors that could unravel the fabric of reality. For warriors seeking power, this was an opportunity to claim a weapon of limitless might. But for those who understood the consequences, it meant the end of everything they knew. As the stellar runes grew stronger, new factions began to emerge, each with its own vision of what should be done with the Forge of Lost Souls. The most dangerous of them all was the Order of the Celestial Shadow, led by the imposing and enigmatic Valerian Crow. The Order was no mere secret society, it had deep roots in cosmic occultism, with members infiltrated within the most powerful circles of the world. Their goal was clear: to claim the weapons forged in the Forge of Lost Souls and achieve absolute power and immortality. Valerian Crow believed that true human ascension could only be achieved through complete mastery of the forge. To him, humanity was trapped in a limited, mortal existence, bound to a flawed reality. The only way to transcend these limitations was to unite with the ancient cosmic gods who had created the forge. He knew that by controlling the weapons and the souls imprisoned within them, he could open portals to realms beyond human comprehension and absorb the power of entities older than time itself. But Valerian Crow was not the only one seeking the forge. Nathaniel Graves, a hunter of cosmic relics and an expert in mystical artifacts, was also in pursuit of its secrets, though for different reasons. Nathaniel believed that the forge was the key to unlocking hidden truths about the multiverse, and he was willing to take any risk to discover how the weapons forged within it could manipulate the fabric of time and reality. Unlike Valerian, Nathaniel did not seek power to dominate the world. He only wished to understand the true nature of these weapons and the forces they represented. Meanwhile, another faction, the Dark Celestials, began moving in the shadows. These mysterious beings believed that the forge should not be controlled but destroyed. According to their philosophy, the weapons forged within it were not simply tools of power, they were seals, imprisoning indescribable horrors within them. If the forge were reactivated, these horrors would be released, unleashing a cosmic apocalypse. To the Dark Celestials, the only solution was to erase all traces of the forge and prevent its weapons from falling into the wrong hands. These different factions, warriors, mages, and scholars, began crossing paths in their search for the forge. Seraphina, with her knowledge of the celestial code, found herself at the center of this conflict, trying to prevent the factions from destroying each other while also searching for a way to stop the forge from being reawakened. At the same time, Ethan Caldwell, the warrior marked by the forge, started to realize that his mystical sword was more deeply tied to this struggle than he had ever imagined. Tension grew as the factions neared the Forge of Lost Souls, but amidst the chaos, an unexpected group of warriors began to form. Ethan Caldwell, Seraphina Nightfall, Nathaniel Graves, and Lucian Ashbourne, 4 souls whose destinies were intertwined by the forge. Each of them sought something different, yet they were all bound by a common goal: to prevent the power of the forge from falling into the wrong hands. Ethan Caldwell was the warrior most marked by the forge. His journey had begun when he received the mystical sword forged from fragments of reality itself. Since then, he had carried an unbreakable connection to the forge. His mission was to understand his sword and how it linked to the celestial code, but each passing day he found himself increasingly obsessed with the power of his blade. Ethan knew he could not afford to fail, not just because his fate was entwined with the forge, but because he was slowly being consumed by the soul imprisoned within his sword. Seraphina Nightfall, on the other hand, possessed the knowledge needed to unravel the celestial code, yet she knew that doing so could open doors that should remain closed. Her role in the journey was crucial. She had to use the code to prevent the forge from being reactivated. However, she also understood that the code had the ability to corrupt and alter the minds of those who deciphered it. Seraphina needed to hold on to her sanity as she felt herself being drawn toward a mysterious force emanating from the code itself. Nathaniel Graves was not a traditional warrior, but his search for cosmic relics made him an indispensable ally. His ability to interpret artifacts and understand the complexities of parallel realities was vital in their attempt to decipher the celestial code. Nathaniel had a pragmatic view of the forge's power. He did not seek to control it, only to understand it. However, his obsession with uncovering the secrets hidden between the lines of reality was beginning to take a toll. He found himself teetering on the edge of madness. Finally, Lucian Ashbourne emerged, a warrior cursed by one of the mystical weapons of the forge. Lucian had been chosen by his blade, but now he bore the weight of a lost soul that haunted his mind. He had become a shadow of the man he once was, his humanity fading as the soul imprisoned within his weapon took hold of him. Yet, even cursed, Lucian knew that his own experience with the forge's weapons could be the key to defeating the forces that threatened the world. This journey of chosen warriors was far from simple. As they neared the Forge of Lost Souls, each of them had to face their own demons, their own weaknesses, while preparing for what could be the final battle between good and evil, between reality and cosmic chaos. What was at stake was not just their own fates, but the future of all realities. As the celestial runes spread across the sky, the key to understanding the Forge of Lost Souls began to reveal itself through the celestial code. This ancient set of cosmic symbols was more than just a language. It was a profound truth about the origins of the universe, capable of connecting stars, worlds, and souls. For Seraphina Nightfall, deciphering the code was the only way to prevent the activation of the forge and avert the disaster that could consume reality as they knew it. But as she delved deeper, the true nature of the code became increasingly dangerous. The celestial code was not something that could be easily understood. It was connected to the very fabric of time and reality. Each symbol, each rune pattern pulsed like a living cell, a message from a power far beyond human comprehension. For Seraphina, every step toward complete understanding was a risk. She knew that those who had attempted to decipher it before her had lost their minds or vanished into alternate dimensions, trapped by the complexity of the runes. But something else was beginning to disturb her. The runes were changing. Every time she solved a pattern, another emerged, more complex and more unsettling. It was as if the code was aware of her presence, reacting to her efforts. It was as if the code itself was alive, testing her courage and determination. pushing her to the limits of what a human mind could endure. Meanwhile, Ethan Caldwell, who had grown more deeply connected to his mystical sword, began to hear the echoes of the souls imprisoned within the blades forged by the Forge of Lost Souls. His weapon, a blade forged from fragments of reality, seemed to be aware of his thoughts and intentions. The more he used the sword's power, the more he felt consumed by it. The sword spoke to him, or rather, the soul within it did. And what the soul said was not a plea for redemption but screams of agony, an endless sacrifice. This only reinforced Ethan's doubts. Could he trust the power his sword offered him? Or was it slowly corrupting him? At this moment of rising tension, with the forge in sight and the code revealing itself in ever more intricate ways, Seraphina had an epiphany. She realized that the celestial code was not merely a key to the forge, it was, in fact, a map to the horrors hidden within it, sealed away for millennia with a greater purpose. The awakening of the forge would not only create more mystical weapons but would also unleash indescribable horrors, cosmic beings that had been banished beyond the dimensions. Now, Seraphina knew that the true challenge was not just stopping the forge's activation, it was preventing these horrors from being set free. Then, at the peak of her discovery, she turned to her companions, her eyes burning with newfound determination. "We're running out of time," she said, her voice tense and urgent. "The celestial code is not just the key to the forge, it's the key to everything. And what it's revealing now may be our only chance to stop the cosmic apocalypse. Have you ever wondered what would happen if the boundaries between worlds were shattered, and beings from beyond began walking among us? Make no mistake, the celestial code is far more than just an ancient language. It may be the key to our salvation, or the portal to our destruction. Leave a like and subscribe because the real battle is about to begin." The weight of responsibility pressed down on Seraphina, but the discovery of her connection to the code forced her to question whether she was truly prepared to face the ancient evil hidden beyond words and symbols. The tension in the air grew as the group approached the Forge of Lost Souls, and a sense of inevitability began to settle in. With each step, the line between salvation and destruction became ever more fragile. The celestial code was the key to unraveling the secrets of the Forge of Lost Souls, but at the same time, it was also a code of destruction. It was hidden in the stars and the ancient scriptures Seraphina studied, and as she progressed in her understanding of the code, the more dangerous her discoveries became. The code was not just a set of symbols and mathematical formulas, but a guide to controlling the cosmic forces that existed beyond human comprehension. Its true purpose, however, was to prevent the forge from being reactivated, and, if it was, to stop the horrors trapped in the weapons from being unleashed. As Seraphina deciphered the code, she felt herself becoming part of it, as if the starry runes were starting to influence her, shaping her thoughts and actions. The connection with the code was slowly transforming her, and she knew that if she wasn't careful, she herself could become part of that destructive force. While the chosen ones prepared to prevent the catastrophe, an even darker threat loomed closer. Valerian Crow, the enigmatic leader of the Order of the Celestial Shadow, had his own plans for the Forge of Lost Souls. He knew that by mastering the power of the forge, he could transcend human limitations and achieve true immortality. For him, death was merely a step to be overcome, a barrier that the forge could destroy. Valerian had studied the celestial code for years, but his interpretation was very different from Seraphina's. While she sought to protect the world and prevent the release of cosmic horrors, Valerian believed that freeing these horrors would lead to the next stage of evolution. He wanted to use the weapons forged in the Forge of Lost Souls to open cosmic rifts, allowing beings from other dimensions to enter and absorb their energy to gain absolute power. His followers were devoted, willing to sacrifice anything to see his goals fulfilled. Valerian saw humanity as an obstacle to true ascension, and the end of humankind was merely a small price to pay to achieve perfection. For him, immortality was the end of all pain and suffering, a realm of eternal dominion where he would be the supreme ruler of the multiverse. The Order of the Celestial Shadow, with its members infiltrated in the highest echelons of power, began gathering forces for a final confrontation. Valerian knew that the awakening of the forge was inevitable, but he believed it would signify his victory, for he would be the only one capable of controlling it. Now he not only needed to find the forge, but also destroy anyone who dared to stop his plans. When Valerian's forces began to attack, the group of warriors led by Ethan Caldwell sprang into action. Armed with his mystical sword, Ethan felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. His weapon, a blade made from fragments of reality, was imbued with power, but also with a lost soul crying out for redemption. He knew he had to maintain control over the blade, or it would consume him as it had with many before him. When Valerian's forces began to attack, the group of warriors led by Ethan Caldwell sprang into action. Armed with his mystical sword, Ethan felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. His weapon, a blade made from fragments of reality, was imbued with power, but also with a lost soul crying out for redemption. He knew he had to maintain control over the blade, or it would consume him as it had with many before him. By his side was Lucian Ashbourne, a cursed warrior who, despite still possessing the strength of his mystical weapon, knew that his soul was condemned to suffer due to his connection with it. Lucian, one of the first to be touched by the Forge of Lost Souls, understood better than anyone the weight of the weapons created there. He had accepted his fate, but he was not willing to let Valerian use the forge for his own selfish ends. Nathaniel Graves, the relic hunter, used his knowledge of cosmic artifacts to assist the group. He had learned to manipulate the celestial code to contain some of the rifts that were opening, but he knew he could not do it alone. Each rift was a risk, and the battle was becoming harder as time passed. The creatures emerging from the rifts were beginning to materialize in physical forms, making the fight even more desperate. The confrontation intensified as the warriors faced Valerian's forces and the horrors emerging from the cosmic rifts. Every sword strike and spell cast seemed in vain, for with every victory something worse emerged. It was a battle against time and forces beyond human understanding. The fate of humanity was in the hands of Ethan, Seraphina, and the other warriors. Valerian Crow, with his power and determination, was on the verge of activating the final ritual, which would allow him to transcend mortal limitations and become a cosmic entity. The Forge of Lost Souls was in its final stage of activation, and the stellar runes were becoming increasingly intense in the sky, as if the universe itself was responding to the call. It was at this moment that Lucian, corrupted by the curse of the weapon he carried, had a vision. He saw the true nature of the forge. It not only created weapons but also sealed cosmic horrors in a space beyond reality. He realized that some of the forged weapons were not simply tools but seals that prevented these horrors from invading our world. He knew that the only way to stop the complete collapse was to destroy the forge before it was fully reactivated. In a desperate act of courage, Lucian used his own life to seal the energy of the forge, knowing that it would result in his death but would also erase all connection to the horrors that were about to be unleashed. His sacrifice was the only way to interrupt Valerian's ritual and prevent the world from being consumed by cosmic darkness. The path to the Forge of Lost Souls was paved with sacrifices, battles, and impossible choices. As the 5 warriors arrived at the place where the forge lay, they realized that the true challenge would not be simply activating or destroying the forge. The greatest dilemma lay in how to deal with the cosmic horrors that were about to be released. Ethan, Seraphina, Nathaniel, Lucian, and Valerian were faced with a critical decision. Seal the forge forever and keep the horrors imprisoned, or risk unleashing immeasurable power and face the consequences. But there was something no one knew. The souls that had been sacrificed to forge the mystical weapons were not merely trapped. They were conscious and waiting for an opportunity to take revenge. As the warriors approached the forge, a strange sense of anticipation filled the air. It was as if the very place was breathing, waiting to test the resolve of the chosen ones. Ethan, whose sword had already begun consuming his mind, faced the temptation to use the blade's power one last time. I can use it to destroy the forge, he thought. With it, I can save everyone and ensure no one else suffers because of this cursed weapon. But the sword, as if it had a life of its own, responded with a guttural scream in his mind, attempting to seduce him with the promise of unlimited power. Seraphina, in turn, knew that the key to everything lay in deactivating the celestial code and preventing the starry runes from continuing to spread. But as she tried to use her magic to block the symbols, she felt herself weakening. The code, in one final effort, seemed to try to absorb all of her vital energy. In the critical moment, Lucian Ashbourne, his soul marked by the forge, made the final choice. He knew that the true evil lay within the weapons and the trapped souls. The only way to prevent chaos was to seal the forge forever, even if it meant losing everything he knew. With an unprecedented sacrifice, Lucian threw himself into the heart of the forge, taking with him the final key to preventing destruction. The forge, for a moment, exploded in a wave of energy, and then silence settled. The horrors that had been sealed for millennia were finally contained, and the forge, now broken, no longer emitted its runes. But although the battle had ended, the scars would remain. The warriors knew the world would never be the same. The balance that had been restored came at a great cost, and the mystical weapons that were once tools of power were now sealed, but the price of the choices made on that journey would be carried by all. If you've made it this far, we know you're invested in this epic journey. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next adventures. The battle against the cosmic horrors may have ended for now, but many more battles await. Stay with us and continue exploring the mysteries of the universe.